Big thank you to all of you. I mean, I was planning on leaving this to the end, just to say thank you to all of you, each individual one of you, for attending this conference. It's very nice, and it's very encouraging that you are also enthusiastic about what we're trying to do with these welfare initiatives. And it becomes quite surprising the difference that one individual devotee can make when they decide to do something special to help other devotees, other Vaishnavas. Okay, anyway, without further ado. So we already heard from Asesa Sadhini, one of our more prominent counsellors. So now, the next two speakers that we have, they're Sadhana. Sadhana is here, there she is. And then we're going to hear from Lokesvari. Right? Now, the reason I've put these two together is because they actually have something in common. Both of them are long-term devotees in our New Govardhan Yatra, and both of them, having observed the needs that exist to deliver efficient personal support for our growing Vaishnava community, have taken it upon themselves to go out and enroll in counselling and community service tertiary degrees, specifically in respond to these needs in our community. And these courses that they've been doing are local courses. They're not difficult to access, and they're not courses that take years and years and years to do. So we've been discussing this today, especially Vishal in his presentation about professionalising seva. So both of these devotees are actually setting a really nice example, what I consider to be a really good example, that befits the response of a Vaishnava who sees and wants to do something about trying to help others in an appropriate manner. So the first one, first we're going to hear from Sadhana. So Sadhana is a local devotee who first met the devotees in Byron Bay in 1986 as one of our New Govardhana's longest-serving Vaishnavis. Sadhana has given freely of her time for many years in responding to the needs of congregational members. Sadhana has actually, now because I've known Sadhana for 30 years, she really has very exceptional interpersonal skills. She's a very good communicator, and perhaps one of the most community-conscious devotees that I know personally. She's currently serving on our mentorship program, and she is completing her diploma in counselling. Okay, so please welcome to the stage Her Grace Sadhana.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I'm sorry I'm a little shy to be here because I haven't really got anything great, fantastic to say, but I'm really happy this is happening because I really care for the devotees, and I like how the devotees, I'd like to see the devotees more to be looked after, so that's why I'm here. And she's supporting me here, so and that's why I did counselling, because I feel devotees have needs that aren't being met, and so I'd like them to be heard. So, and I'm really happy with the program, everything that we heard. So many things. 90% of disease comes from mental things, and that if you're in a community and relationships, that makes you a stronger person, and anyhow, we'll move on. Anyhow, I just want to say to all my seniors, because there's a lot of seniors here, I just want to say please encourage me, give me guidance and your blessings. And equals, let's be friends and inspire and serve together. And juniors, I pray I can give you strength and love and inspiration and growing forwards towards Krishna and stay with the devotees. I met actually, Hladini asked me to do a little bit of history, so I'm just, I don't know, it's just coming from myself, so I hope it's not too self-centered, but anyhow, I met the devotees in Sydney and Byron Bay in 1986 who slowly cultivated me to Krishna. Most of the devotees at that time were running away from the institution, And I thought that Krishna seemed very nice, so I stuck around, slowly engaged more in devotional service. Then I went to New Zealand for nearly 5 years, where devotees were able to keep going with the process. Then we go to this slide. If you maintain the association of devotees, your life will be happy and perfect. Is this Hare Krishna process a dirty word? What does it mean to you? I'm just pushing this the process of Krishna consciousness a little bit here. So Srila Prabhupada, letter 29th of April 1974. The regulated principles are designed to take us gradually to the platform of spontaneous love of Krishna, which is the perfection of human life. This early rising, holding classes, going out regularly for Sankirtan, worshipping the deities are the very substance of devotional service. I'm just adding that there. After 5 years, I came back to New Govardhan as New Zealand, South Island, was frozen for more than half of the year. So thinking New Govardhan is going to be our family's lifelong home, well, Krishna had other plans. So I've seen a lot of devotees come and go. Then I was fortunate enough that I lived in Sridham Mayapur for nearly 15 years. That was very beneficial to my spiritual life. When I came back to New Govardhan, I hardly knew any of the devotees. I found this very disturbing. I don't know if any of you have felt like that your friends just aren't here anymore, and thank you. So the community had changed, some for better and some for worse. That brings me to the point I'm coming to: healthy communities for all devotees. So I pray to be an instrument in our community. I remember all community devotees coming together for temple programs, taking prasadam together, not just doing their service and running away and not being seen till their next service time, but we had a real community spirit, and I think we need to maybe be nice to get back to that really nurturing of community life as well. The Lord is careful about his devotees, just as a mother is always careful about her little child, who is completely dependent on her care. So I just love that, and I just thought this is what we need to do, is we need to care for the devotees more. So everyone can have their opinions, but if it differs, that doesn't mean you leave your family. Family are families. This is a spiritual family. Srila Prabhupada's family. Families stay together that pray together. Families that eat together, live together. And families that stay together that pray together. Sorry, I might have repeated myself. There are many circles of devotees in this community, and that is healthy. The central focus must be Radha Govardhan, and we should all come together to offer our services to them. Hear classes, dance together, and honour prasadam together as much as possible. We can reject anyone. That is very easy, but to reform him, that requires great skill and tact. And if you can reform him, thereby kind words and dealings, that is best. Srila Prabhupada, letter to Madhavisa, Moga, Los Angeles, 24th of August, 1972. So that, to me, that slide of Srila Prabhupada is really just very simple, just some kind words and dealings with devotees. Now I've got another little one by Kadamba Khan Swami, diving deep in the surface to substance. The 3 layers of spiritual institutions, April 19, 2018. The real substance of this movement is the spiritual process. The wonderful and simple formula of hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. This process is purely transcendental, and no matter what happens, the chanting of Hare Krishna remains equally powerful. It is not tainted by history or withered by time. It is eternal and completely pure. Moreover, it is accessible to any sincere soul, regardless of time, place, or circumstance. It is the process that individuals and the society, and it is the process that which should remain the central focus of our lives. If you put the process in the center of your life, problems will vanish. Okay, so as you heard, I decided to put myself into a counselling course, so I'm just putting some little counselling memo here. Counselling is a professional relationship that empowers diversity, individuals, families and groups to accomplish mental health, wellness, education, spiritual and career goals. Counselling is a process of talking about, working through your personal problems with the counsellor. The counsellor helps you to address your problems in a positive way by helping you to clarify the issues, explore options and develop strategies and increasing self-awareness. Srila Prabhupada was first and foremost someone who truly cared, who completely sacrificed his own comforts for the work of the good of others. Mukunda Goswami. So we've heard that it's really important to have confidential confidentiality and building relationships. At the temple I had lost my dear initiation beads. I was told, don't worry, nobody chants here. So this next slide is for our benefit, so we can have healthy, wealthy and wise. And I'm adding this because I think, people do have problems, but I think if we do follow the process, our problems do get minimized. So benefits of chanting the mantra. Dissolves bad habits, evil thoughts and negative emotions. Gets rid of fear, stress and anxiety. It relieves from all miseries. It clears your mind and heart. Best method of self-realization. It purifies yourself and surroundings. Helps to achieve big. It brings joy, peace and happiness. Gives divine qualities like love, mercy and inner happiness. It brings the highest state of ecstasy. Thank you. So I chose to do a counselling diploma, to learn some skills, and I've learned that I wasn't a very good listener, and to others. I'd quite often cut people off and cut them off in the conversation and think that I knew better. So counselling has allowed me to hear, to listen to people, and to hear their feelings and work through their personal problems. It's a positive way by helping you to clarify the issues, explore options and develop strategies, and increasing awareness. So, I'm really happy with everything, how it's been going here. And I'm sorry I didn't look at what time the clock was when I started. So I'm looking now, though. One thing I'd really like to say, I really want to see a men's forum happen. So all you men, I hope you can all get together and do that, because we all benefited a lot from the ladies. And there are so many problems growing in the world, and there are so many fix-it methods. If only they could come back to God consciousness, their lives would be less suffering and less mental and less diseases. And if anyone knows me, well, that's just sort of where I am. I try and stay very positive. I try and stay focused, connected to the temple very much, and I just find it really works. So, and why I'm really here is devotee support. Not even I'm more of a proactive person than when people are maybe suffering, as Vasu might understand. I never get around to seeing people, but in a proactive way, I feel we need also proactive people to keep healthy and wealthy and wise. So, and I just feel like we need to support the devotees and find out what their needs and hear their needs, and get working with them, and accepting all who come sincerely to serve the Lord. And one thing I find is very important is making your choices. You can either sink or swim. So it's really important to know what makes you a positive person and, healthy person, and make those choices. And as everyone knows, we go through difficult times, and in those difficult times, we know where to take that shelter so we can become a stronger person. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sadhana. Okay, so now we have Lokesvari. So Lokesvari, known as Loki to us here, she springs from Toronto, Canada. So Loki has always been involved in what she described as people services. She served as an early childhood educator for 17 years, which included serving with the kindergarten in Mayapur. In more recent years, Loki has engaged her talents and abilities to helping the very diverse populations that frequent our farm's Krishna village. And after 6 years in the service, Loki decided that there was a real need for her to study community services at one of our local technical colleges in order to become professionally qualified. So, Loki, where has she gone? There you are, right. Welcome to the stage, please. Her Grace, Loki Prabhu.
Oh, thanks, Jai. Thanks, everyone. It's amazing to be here. It's surreal. I'm so proud of Hladini for all the work that's gone into this and the vision. I always felt like that I watched New Govardhan unfold with maturity over time. I could think, wow, it's, and what I mean by maturity is social acceptance, understanding, and this is just a huge step in that direction. So I feel very glad that I studied and honored to be a part of it, and super proud of Hladini for putting this structural conference into place for all of us. This quote here, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, is a quote from Dr. John Maxwell, who is an American minister, and he also does personal development teaching. When I first got to Melbourne, I was listening to leadership tapes, and this quote just, I loved Dr. John Maxwell's work so much, I'd give Jai Patakaraj cassettes sometimes when he would come, so you've got to hear this, But this was the premise, that people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And that's really stuck with me. So here's all the beautiful faces from the Krishna village. There's Radha and our dear friends. This photo up at the top is from Tumbulgum. Oh no, that's not Tumbulgum, that's Main Street. That's right after the flood in Murwillumbah. After we went to Tumbulgum and served the prasadam out, a really tragic thing happened, and a car slid into the mud with a mother and her children. And when we arrived with all the prasadam in the Govinda's truck, all of a sudden the town was just quiet. And I was saying, oh, there's a car in the river, a girl got out. So after we served the prasadam, Anjali was with us, and Yasoda said, we need to come together and go by the river and chant the Nrsingadev prayers. So we did. Anjali chanted the Nrsingadev prayers, and we stood and we honored the tragedy that was happening. And just a few weeks ago, a girl from Tumbulgum and a family from Tumbulgum that I met, and I went to their house to talk about something, and we started to talk about the flood and the fact that we had gone on that day and the tragedy. She said, oh, I remember some of us talk about when we hear you singing, even though it was such a tragic day and it was so terrible. It was just a spontaneous thing that we were there. Krishna Gan decided we were going to go do food distribution, prasadam distribution, so we went. But it's just that impact of ripple effect. So anything you do that's positive is purely ripple effect. You throw the stone into the water and it ripples out. So even in Tumbulgum for now, they remember us. But I'm so nervous I wasn't even going to talk about any of that. So in the community services course, which I decided to take, because in the Krishna village I was working in a garden with a lot of women, mostly women, some men also. But as I was working in the garden with them, I would ask them, what brings you here? And as they told me what brought them to the Krishna village, I had so many stories. And then as I just listened, and we were just gardening, weeding, and transplanting, and pruning roses and whatever, they would continue talking to me. But I was hearing sexual abuse. I was the first one to hear stories of their rape. I was the first one to hear that they were in tears with their mother. And I just thought, I'm not qualified for this, and I don't really know how to assist them. So I went to study to figure, how can I actually assist them? So that's what I did. And the first thing I learned, similar to what Sadhana said, was to listen, like really active listening. Same like Sadhana, I'm classic for interrupting. But I really learned how to actively listen. And one of the processes I found in actively listening is you don't say, oh yeah, me too. You just listen and you kind of empty yourself in a way that allows you to just be empty and really like lean forward and listen. And in my mind, I would repeat what they're saying because my mind is so active. And so I really want to hear what they're going through. And so learning how to listen, learning how to be what I call radically non-judgmental. So radical non-judgment and confidentiality. So the confidentiality is that this stays in the garden. Or anything you say here is just going to stay in the garden. And that would open them up. And that I was radically non-judgmental. That these people were coming from all walks of life, for all different reasons. And I actually didn't feel quite different from them. In the beginning especially, because I was also in the Krishna village for my own spiritual growth. Just to also, I think, this sense of belonging, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of working on a project together. They're all so important for connection. So over and over, I was hearing that community service is about supporting the vulnerable and assisting the vulnerable. And so, okay, there's active listening. When the opposite happens, if you have radical non-judgment where you just, which I find is, I had to kind of unlearn that. You know, I went through some things in my life where I had to just kind of break all the walls down, and I could see Krishna's everywhere. Krishna's right outside of all the walls of ISKCON and everything. Krishna's absolutely everywhere. And for me, he's in everyone's heart. That's how I would see everyone. And so to listen without interruption and judgment would create a healing, and listening gives the person value and it gives them connection. And if the opposite happens, if you come from somewhere, any part of your life, and you say, sometimes I'll hear in the back of a conversation, so-and-so's gone off the rails, this devotee's not, he's not doing his rounds, and this devotee's, some language like that. I kind of cringe a bit when I hear, if I hear that, and I don't hear it very much, but when I do, I think, and this is based on the one thing I learned from the Krishna village, is that when people would reveal their minds and their hearts to me, I would be so surprised. I would size them up as someone who had been raised really well and looked peaceful and beautiful, someone who would probably not have experienced any trauma at all, but they had. And so this radical non-judgment allows people to, if you hear something like, they've gone off the rails and, they can't keep it together or something, I would urge everyone to say, what's going on with that devotee's life? What's happened? There's so much we don't know. Like, we just don't know what's going on in all of your lives or my lives. So I really feel it's so important to listen more, really listen, and try and communicate from radical non-judgment and connect. Because if the opposite happens, if someone feels judged, then you don't want to share, and then you keep some of the issues or the factors within us, and then that can lead to isolation and social isolation. Then we don't have our devotees coming around anymore, or if someone's hurt, then the devotees start to leave. So this process of just listening is so simple and it's so powerful for connection and belonging, and we have it, and for me, I'd just like to see that grow in maturity more. So because social isolation is going to lead to more mental health issues, loneliness and depression. And the last day of the community services course, suicide was was the topic. And I was like, it's the #1 killer in Australia today, suicide. It's not heart disease, it's not car accidents, it's suicide. Suicide isn't something that just suddenly appears. So connection, it's really all about connection, and that comes from listening. And as, our mentors were talking about the connection, how people always want to, ring you up, because you have that confidentiality and that trust and that real solid friendship. It's so beautiful and it's so real. So when I got home that night, and I was thinking, first I was really stunned that suicide was the #1 killer in Australia. And then when I got home, I got a phone call from a friend with a girl that some of us know that had spent some time living with me in Yukai, had a successful suicide. I thought, oh. And then 2 weeks later, a guest in the Krishna village that was with us for months had a suicide. And his name is Paul de Sassel. And looking at him, I would never have thought he had a mental health issue. He was happy all the time, super happy. He watered, during the hot summer months when I wasn't there, he watered my garden every day. He's like, I'll do it. I can water your garden every day. I can do that. Yeah, no problem. I love it. It's like a meditation. He was buoyant and happy. And I was like, I would never have, and he was someone I considered a friend. And to get the news that he just jumped off a balcony after some trauma had happened, it's really just like, it really cuts. And I don't want, within every community services course, there's one Hare Krishna devotee studying. So within every community services course, the diploma or the Cert for the last 20 years, there's always one Hare Krishna in attendance. So that means that course has been going over 20 years. We've got equipped professional people right here, more than us. They're out there. So bringing them in through that mood, I think, is where I'm going with it all. And so I don't want suicide to become a statistic, though. I want it to be something that is alarming and shows Kali Yuga's progression on the rise. But you really never know what's going on in someone's world. So assisting the vulnerable that's my belief, active listening, radical non-judgment. It allows this transformation to occur. For about eight times over 1 year, I ran women's circles in the Krishna village. And they'd have 33 to 25 women come together, and we'd meet, and I'd just do a sacred entry, and I'd say that this is a non-judgmental space. No judgment on you, no judgment on anyone else. This is fully confidential. Do we all agree? Raise their hand, yes, fully confidential. And in that space, so a medium of about 25 people, 2/3 of the women had experienced sexual disempowerment. 2 of them were always, which is alarming. And they come here to heal. And so next time you see anyone in the villager, just know that we're all one as far as Krishna being in the heart, and try just to remove any judgment. Judgment, I have it all the time. I always look at someone, size them up, and I'm always wrong. That is like the best lesson the village has showed me. Some of them are very young, and they have multiple sclerosis, autoimmune disease. So I'm going to end with this one letter that I got from one of the ladies. Dear Loki, I hope you find this and the love that I want to send to you. Thank you for unlocking something in me that was so stuck. Thank you for sharing yourself you have in your spirit and bringing together 15 or so women who didn't know one another, but you connected us as one force. Much love always. P.S. In the 2 years of therapy, I was never able to share and release what was needed to be released until the women's circle with you. This woman came to us, and none of us knew, but her infant child had died. She was dealing with alcohol dependence and separation from her other children. So, connect. listen and refrain. Just let's go radical non-judgment. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Loki. Some very strong messages there. Now, our next speaker is going to be Ekadasi, Devi Dasi. So, Ekadasi Prabhu and her husband Govardhan Seva have been bhakti yogis more or less all their lives, from what I understand, teaching yoga and studying the Vedas. Now, having joined ISKCON in 2002, they have dedicated many hours looking after the visitors at our Sunday feast programs here on your Govardhan Farm. And to enhance this service, together they created our standard New Govardhan Visitors Handbook, which has now been in publication for almost 15 years. And to date, Ekadasi and her husband, they have sponsored the printing and distribution of approximately 22,000 of these booklets. Right? Now, sadly, monumental effort. So now, sadly, of course, Govardhan Seva Prabhu is not with us any longer, but Ekadasi continues to offer these services as well as many others to our community. So so Ekadasi is going to be speaking on an initiative that she came to me very recently with this idea, and I said, look, this is a fabulous idea to create some sort of program or something that is aimed at caring for widows and widowers in Krishna consciousness. I think it's a fabulous thing. Please welcome Her Grace Ekadasi Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna. To be a widow and identifying with the material body is very hard. And to be a widow in Krishna consciousness is an entirely different experience. Right now. So we are very fortunate to be in Krishna consciousness. My husband, Govardhan, he suffered ill health for 9 years. And the last 2 years of that 9, we had Ambika Devi Dasi and Braja Kishori come into our home once a fortnight to sing bhajans. That went on for 2 years. Then Govardhan stopped eating. We knew the time was near. And she started to come more regular. And we opened our home for family and for devotees to come and sing kirtan. Many people came, many wonderful devotees came. And there was Bushaya, there was Venugopal, and they now left their bodies also. There was Sadhana, who came and helped with the devotees, and also Damodara. They came and just helped because there were so many devotees coming. My Gurudev, he went on Skype 3 times, and Via Krishna visited Govardhan twice. Govardhan really appreciated having the association of so many devotees. It was really, really nice. That went on for 10 days after he had stopped eating. And then on a Sunday morning, he left his body very peacefully. There was two things to do. The first was to call the doctor to verify the death. And then we called Nashinkavacha. And he came along with his wife, Asesa. Nashinkavacha took myself and our sons through the process of washing and preparing the body. And then he gave the last rites. That it was really good to be able to know that the body was being properly cared for, and that was my last active interaction with Govardhan's body. It was important. Many hours later, the cremation van came to pick up the body. You can understand how difficult that was, to let the body go. But I started to become involved, absorbed completely in the thoughts of when we got married. It was at London Cathedral, and as I entered, right up was a massive deity of Jesus Christ. It was a very powerful experience, and I said, "May the vow, let thy be done. Until death do us part." 62 years later, that vow had been completed. We stayed together 62 years. It was a good relationship. Over the years of our life, God became Krishna as we had got involved with Krishna consciousness. And so I found that if I would go out, or if I came back from shopping, I would miss, okay, Gordon's not there. I would feel, I would know he is not there. So I immediately started chanting the holy name. By chanting the holy name, you feel the presence of Krishna, and he was there, actually giving me the feeling that he was saying, "Yes, I am with you in the form of my holy name." That was real. That was an experience. I would think of Krishna, I would think of my spiritual master, and I would read Prabhupada's books. I would keep myself engaged every moment and having Krishna in the background. I never ever felt lonely, and I still do not feel lonely, because Krishna is there. He is with me. So loneliness is not a problem. The first widow in ISKCON was Nan Mohini, and she had a child. And there were so many people giving her advice that she got confused. So she and her brother Nimai went to see Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says, "I'm not going to tell you what to do, but don't do it. You have a child, and marriage is about having children. You have a child. Do what I do. Just read all day, sing kirtan, chant, do whatever you can. Put your whole self into Krishna consciousness. And so she said, her Nitai said, her brother to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, she needs protection. She needs to have a husband to be protected. And Prabhupada's words, the way he says it, you do not need protection. No man can protect you. No man can save you from birth, from disease and old age or death. No man can do this. So you just chant. Do like I do. Chant all day, read the books, read my books, and keep yourself occupied in Krishna conscious activities. And Manmohini said, thank you, Prabhupada, I will. So she was the first widow in ISKCON. Krishna has shown us the way. All his books, all his devotees, everything. What we have to do. I continue to do my service at the temple, and just after that, Ambika Prabhu and Raj Kishori, they took me around with them on there, looking after the people who need care, the devotees who need care. We went to the hospitals, we went to care programs, nurseries, farms, wherever people were ill, we'd go and we'd sing bhajans, we'd sing kirtans, we'd take prasad, and we would do whatever was needed. So that kept me busy that side. And the last thing that happened, what I can say now, is Vishnu Jan. Every Wednesday, he has come to my home, and he keeps me busy because I go to the market, buy fresh fruit, and then I come back and I make jam tarts. I offer it all to my deities, and then when they come, they sing absolutely beautiful kirtans. They come, we sing kirtan, and then they eat the prasad. It's a wonderful experience. They're beautiful devotees. I enjoy my association with devotees. That community effort has helped me to be able to stand here today. I thank you all very much and offer you all my obeisances.
Thank you very much, Ekadasi. Okay, so now we're moving back to our counsellors. We have another senior devotee, Sarvamangala Prabhu, who currently lives and serves in Sydney with her husband, Bhagavata Prabhu. So Sarvamangala has been a counsellor for over 20 years. She became qualified in the UK and then trained further in Australia, specifically using creative arts in therapy. Her practice as a counsellor allowed her to support Gurukul school children in Vrindavan, as well as other individuals needing specific therapeutic support for various types. Now, in the professional field, Sarvamangala has worked with young people who were exposed to abuse and who suffered other trauma, such as displacement from their homes and families. And in the devotional field, Sarvamangala strives to maintain what she herself describes as that mood of being the personal servant of the Lord to Srila Prabhupada and to the devotees. Okay, and Today she is speaking on a topic, let's keep it personal. Please welcome Her Grace Sarvamangala Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I had to choose in a hurry something to get up here. I chose this picture of Srila Prabhupada. It's quintessential Krishna consciousness. It's the picture of Prabhupada after offering the arti to Krishna Balaram on the establishment of the temple in Vrindavan, Ramanrati. So what I really, apart from just seeing Srila Prabhupada, what I really like about it is that he's just offered all the articles to Krishna, and then he's turning round with that wonderful victory smile, and then he's offering it to us. So that for me is like the core principle that we're actually all been in the material world in a horrible condition, and now we're in the care. We've been taken into care, into the care of Srila Prabhupada. As usual, I've dropped a piece of paper. Okay, I can do without it. It's okay. So I thought, that's a picture about Bhaktivedanta Manor. I'm the one that looks a bit kind of spaced out right at the back. And there Prabhupada's just sitting with us on a sunny afternoon at the manor and just chatting, just talking. If the men came, he'd kind of get on their case and ask why they weren't out doing Sankirtan or something. But somehow, if we were making garlands or sewing or something like that, we could just sit there and have Prabhupada's association. So, that's at the core of it all for me, is that Srila Prabhupada somehow, he took us into his care and he offered us all up to Krishna, and somehow or another, that's what's kept us all going. I mean, I don't know what would have become of us if we hadn't come across Srila Prabhupada, if he hadn't come to pick us up. So always we feel that that's our motivation, that we've been given this chance. Prabhupada said we're opening all these temples just to give people a chance to come and hear about Krishna. And that's what was drummed into us, really, in our early days. We weren't told anything about sacred texts or anything, kind of bridge preaching and all that. We're just told, you scrub the pots and you scrub your heart, and then as soon as you're able, go out and open a place where people can come and just hear about Krishna. So I think we're kind of seen as in some places, we're kind of dinosaurs because we got that kind of training. But it's kept me going anyway. So to come back to this community services, when I first heard what this conference was going to be about, community services, I just thought community, that means your people. The people you live with, the people you relate with, the relationships you have. And service is how to be with them, how to be with those people, how to serve your people, and how to make that offering as a service to Krishna, to make that offering to others. When we go out to preach, I was always struck when I first went out on the street on Harinam in England. We're just out on the street, don't know anything yet. We've only been there a little while. And we had to give out magazines along with the kirtan. And suddenly all this bliss comes, and that you're handing out magazines and saying, take one. And you're getting that ecstatic kind of legacy from Prabhupada offering us this life. And somehow then you start speaking to people on the street and you don't know where the words are coming from, but somehow they're coming. And then as you go on in spiritual life, little by little, as you're going through anarta nivritti, you're going through so many different things to cleanse your heart and to become a better servant. you get more of a sense of how actually this is because Srila Prabhupada has actually connected us with Krishna, the Super Soul. And at first, I remember I couldn't quite relate to that, how there's someone with 4 arms in my heart. I couldn't relate to it. And then one morning I had a dream of the Super Soul in my heart and could hear my heart beating, which kind of convinced me a bit more that it's not just something that we learn and then we have to say that we learned it, and it's about living that experience and sharing it with others. So then we come on to how to be with and how to serve, becoming a servant and being guided in that by the presence of Krishna, by the grace of the spiritual master. And I was thinking in spiritual life that's the highest goal, to become a servant. And in material life, that's like, when you're at school and they ask you what you want to be, or your relatives are saying, what are you going to be when you grow up? Nobody's thinking, I want to be a servant. But for us, that's what we're aiming for in the Shikshastakam. That's what we're advised, to become humble and be the servant of the servant. And we have the Supreme Lord himself coming as a servant. So I think for me, I'm talking principle here, really, rather than what I did or some of the services. I think I'll get into somehow that understanding of being guided by the Super Soul in service, in any service we do. It's all about keeping to the intention of being a devotee. There are many skills we learn if we go and study, to get skills. I know when we were at Soho Street, we had 60 devotees to look after in the temple, and you realize a lot of the time, you're just not getting it right. So I think that's why I first went to do some counselling skills. I found it quite boring at first. I didn't really like being told how to sit and when to nod and hum and things like that. Didn't really do it for me. But it did, there was some elements of it that seemed more interesting, a more creative approach, which I got to get involved with in Australia. But underneath it all, I think the sankalpa, or the intention in Krishna consciousness, that's what we're all working on all the time. Our intention is we want to be able to serve. We want to be able to serve Krishna. And we become, as we serve in a humble mood, or at least attempting it. Prabhupada said, someone asked Prabhupada, how do we become sincere? And he said, by being sincere. So I guess what's helped me is having a bit of a reflective practice, which I learned when I studied here in the Melbourne Institute. It's a long name, experiential and creative arts and therapy. Anyway, they're a bit kind of Buddhist-y, but if about being present and all those kind of cliche words, but actually they're very important, and I looked at it from a Krishna conscious point of view. Like Prabhupada said, 2 birds on the tree, one's Krishna, one's me. So Krishna's present with us all the time, and he knows everything about us. And so we also we are also soul, we have all the qualities of Krishna in minute. So we also have to learn to be present. And I sometimes think in working therapeutically with another person, you have to listen like that bird on the tree. But it's not just about listening with your ears or how your body is. I mean, these are all kind of things that people teach you in counselling courses with the intention of helping you to become more present. But with our training, we have this example of being in relationship with Krishna. And that in any service we do, it's for Krishna's pleasure, and Krishna's always present with us. So when you're engaging therapeutically, you do have that opportunity to actually be be guided by the super soul. I mean, it goes back again to like when people are preaching or speaking or any service. How many times are we confronted, or dressing the deities, you say, oh God. And then you go out, it's a bit of a rush sometimes, things don't quite happen how you wanted it to happen, or you're in a bit late, and then you go out and somehow you think, wow, Krishna, how did he appear like that, that he's the doer, actually. So in any activity, there's 5 factors of action, it says in the Bhagavad Gita. You're there's the senses, there's the place, the people, the environment, but nothing happens without the super soul's sanction. So our whole intention is to satisfy Krishna, and we know that Krishna is the most pleased when we're serving the devotees and when we're helping bring other people to him, because that's why he appeared as Lord Chaitanya, because he wants people to come back. So that's my bottom line, and that I found sustained me and helped me learn in therapeutic work. And I have there's 2 things I really like doing therapeutically. I like being in that space of being with another person and trying to serve them. We did learn a lot. We did learn certain skills, and I liked the model that the Melbourne Institute taught, because it wasn't just about listening with your ears, and which is very essential. I'm not knocking that, but not everybody can tell a story in words. A lot of people are very traumatized, including devotees. Sometimes we go through really difficult times. Sometimes, people fall down, they have challenges, crazy things happen that you never thought would happen, things come up during the process of anartha nivritti, all kinds of things come to the surface, which they're meant to. It's better in than out, but then what do you do with that? So sometimes people don't have a language for the experiences they've had. So we learned a process that I used when I was working with young people in care, very traumatized kids, actually. Been through all kinds of terrible abuse, sometimes in their own homes, and got taken into care. So there's so many ways to have a conversation, and it's not always across a desk, and it's not always theory-driven. Theories you can read, and you can bear in mind other people's awareness and things they've learned, or from different paradigms. But the main thing, I think, is that you're there, the other person's there, that's the situation, and you're Krishna's servant, and this spirit soul is there before you. And as far as I'm concerned, if I can get my own false ego, or what I think I know, out of the way when I'm with that person, I've got more chance of finding that pathway to their heart, which Krishna guides you to, same as like if you go preaching and you don't know where the words come from. Because Krishna is the doer, and someone was mentioning about, the tools we get if we learn skills. But we want to be a tool. We want to be an instrument for Krishna. And depending upon Krishna, in those moments when you have the honor and somehow he's arranged for you to meet that soul or for you to serve that soul, it's such a privilege. And it's so purifying, because you have to surrender. There's nothing that you know or nothing you're able to do that can help that person unless Krishna makes that happen. And that I think is the most exciting thing. I don't think there's anything quite as creative as actually meeting a person where they're at and finding, getting to know someone. And somehow we've got the supreme example of Srila Prabhupada. He's in America, a pure devotee, and he's gone there and he's got nothing, and then all these hippies are coming along with all these bad habits, and he's cooking for them because he knows that prasadam will do the trick, and they're a mess. And it took ages before anyone even thought to help him. But he was there for them in the way that was necessary. So I think for all helpers in any way in the community sector, the main number one thing is to, as Krishna said, do it for me, to satisfy Krishna and trust Krishna. Do the skills. You're an individual, you have individual talents, you have individual strengths, you have your own personality, you have to be yourself. You can't be someone else. And people know if you're trying to fudge it anyway. And I had one client when I worked in West End, a real kind of cool young woman and quite with it. I'm not going to watch the time too much because I don't think I've taken much time compared with a lot of the others. I'll hurry there now. And she says, I feel quite comfortable with you because you always drop things when I come in. And she could tell, and I know I can't really fudge my own vulnerability. It's not something to be ashamed of. We're just servants. We're not. It's good to have professional training, but our persona isn't professionalism. Our persona is servitude, and we're not trying to be pretentious. We're just trying to put our heart into it. So following Srila Prabhupada, following those who exemplify his teachings, his compassion, it's so simple. Not just the strategies, but the mood. The mood's always the most important thing. Like when you go in the deity room, you have to say a prayer. You pray to the Lord to be able to come before him. So when we're serving another person, we're going in a certain mood. And it's not about how Krishna will give you what you need. Because you can only get so much on your own. But in that surrender, mood of surrender, that's where you usually get the most results, in my experience. Because Krishna responds to your desire. That's what he's there for. With us, he responds. Everything's reciprocal. He responds. So then we can also, in small, be a good responder, to be attentive, to be in the relationship with people, and to respond to that person. And there's nothing touches people more than you actually responding, rather than acting out of just acting out of theory. They're helpful, but in the moment it's you and them, and your intense desire to serve Krishna in your own individual way. And when you're working with devotees, remember Prabhupada said everybody's desire for devotional service is individual, spontaneous and voluntary, and we have to honor that. We have to honor their way of being and just be with them in that. And now I'm rushing, so I can't really say what I wanted, but my other passion is to work with the youth. Like I worked with Vrindavan kids in the Gurukul just before they were going to leave. They'd been there their whole childhood, and then suddenly they were going to leave without any net. They were just going to fall through the net. Nothing in place for them, so that your community directors will address things like that. But then we worked together creatively. They did self-portraits. They told of the most precious moments in their life in Vrindavan. And so I'm hoping, I know Mahananda started working with youth, and I'm hoping it would be nice to support other devotees who are counselling, to engage in creative ways that the youth can tell their stories. Like when we did that with the government in the government sector, with working in the government sector with kids in care, they did all kinds of creative representations of their personal experience. They used camera, they painted, they built models, they did rap. But they had done a lot of work beforehand to even be able to access their own emotion. And then they represented it. And I thought how fantastic it would be if we, at our GBC meetings, if we actually had a whole exhibition of the youth's personal experience, growing up in ISKCON or whatever their personal experience is, that they actually have a voice. And so I think let's keep it personal, be creative, remember Krishna's there with us, and whoever you're working with, be up close and personal. I hope I rushed enough.
Thank you very much, Sarvamangala Prabhu. And I'm sorry that we've had to, I would love to give all speakers more time, but we're already quite a bit over our schedule. Now, we only have 2 speakers left, and then we're going to have our discussion session chaired by Damodara Prabhu. Okay, so now we're going to hear from a devotee who, like some of our other speakers, has very recently been inspired to take on the challenge of becoming part of a special welfare initiative for the Vaishnavas. We're going to be hearing from Mahananda Prabhu Jai. So, Mahananda is very talented and a very competent devotee. Over the past decade, she has been the manager of 2 restaurants in the broader New Govardhan region, one which she owned and which was voted the best vegetarian restaurant on the Gold Coast in 2016. Wow. Now, in addition to her astute organisational and business acumen, she has also achieved some rather extraordinary devotional goals, such as completing a Dhanvantari around Govardhan Hill. I think it was in, how many days did it take you? 11 days? Yeah, 11 days. 5 times she did? Phenomenal feat. In fact, I know that Mahananda and her mother, they used to do Vrindavan Parikram every morning. That was their morning walk. Yeah, I heard this. Anyway. Okay, currently Mahananda is enrolled in the Bachelor of Psychological Science at Southern Cross University, which she is aiming to put to good use for her services for the youth of New Govardhan. Right, so for New Govardhan Youth Support Initiative, please put your hands together for Her Grace Mahananda.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this important topic of youth support. I'm just going to be reading what I've typed out here because my first public speaking now. Thank you, Hladini, for organizing it. I believe this is an important focus for our society as the past, present youth of ISKCON is really the future of Srila Prabhupada's movement. Many of you are aware I have been through ISKCON process since childhood, attending the school here at New Govardhan and then growing up in Mayapur Dham. This, therefore, is very much of importance to me personally and to the community also. Our generation went through Gurukul and then we were left to figure out life without much support or any structured support. So as a result, we see many of these alumni, my peers, struggling emotionally, socially, financially, and unfortunately are now not being shown compassion at times, compassion that we have heard this morning that Srila Prabhupada showed to Crazy Peter. This program will extend support to my generation also. Unfortunately, too often we have heard of drug and alcohol abuse, or even worse, suicide, among the pioneer Gurukulis. And dismayingly, I have often heard comments such as, time to get over it, it was so long ago, you should be over it by now, or take responsibility for your own actions or your own life. But this is not the position we as a community and ISKCON internationally should be taking. We need to be offering the non-judgmental support required to help all the young souls born into the movement or joined to develop their love for Krishna and Prabhupada. We see many second and third generation youth flourishing after having developed a sense of their individual belonging to the society. So I would like to see that reach to all the youth. Currently, many of the main kirtans are run by Gurukulis, and we witness the enthusiasm during such kirtans. It would be good to carry that enthusiasm through to other services or service projects that we may develop. I believe the best way to achieve that continuous enthusiasm and contribution is through the development of genuine and caring relationships with the youth, through initiative to provide support, care, and mentorship. Some of the avenues for relationship building can be ongoing meetups, camping trips, sports days, various group service days, etc. The New Govardhan Gurukul has established a wonderful support and care of the children enrolled up to year 12. So we would like to offer a bridge between them leaving Gurukul and working in a professional environment, offer some practical assistance for this. Some career guidance, perhaps actual jobs through the temple, or assistance if their careers take them outside of the society. And also practical assistance if it is their desire to preach or serve within the society. We are fortunate in this community to have many first-gen Gurukulis who are also enthusiastic to help. Many have already approached me, so that's inspiring. Just on another note, I will be also studying or taking a course by Carmen Stewart. Her role is suicide prevention project worker from the Family Centre in Byron Shire. So it will be trained in the program that will help us to provide support for those who are experiencing suicidal thoughts, self-harming thoughts, panic attacks, traumatic events, severe effects of drug and alcohol abuse, aggressive behaviour, etc. So that's on that note. I personally do not see this initiative to be some kind of ashram training or a Sunday school rigid-focused situation. Rather, I envision a welcoming, safe space to be oneself without judgment, a safe space where our natural love for Krishna can be gently nourished and then allowed to flourish. We will be shaping this project as we go along. It's brand new. I was just asked to do it a month ago, so don't have actual structure yet, but it will develop. Strong youth groups are a secret for success for long-term succession planning, keeping our temple alive with vibrant, innovative young people. If New Govardhan community, especially management, can recognize the real need that exists in this genre, then we are asking for support in our gradual development to facilitate a program by which we can reach out and connect with our youth in a way that will work for them as well as for us, and in a way that will be sustainable into the future. Please also take care of the children. They are our future hopes, and the adolescent age is the most dangerous age. It is the turning point of one's life. In this age, you take care of the children. Surely they will come out first-class Krishna-conscious devotees. Srila Prabhupada, Letter to Hayagriva, London, 7th of November, 1969. And that's it.
Thank you, Mahananda. That was wonderful. Okay, so now we come to our final speaker. Last but not least, we will hear from a very experienced and dedicated devotee who has been serving ISKCON for ISKCON's many devotees, children and youth for many years, Rati Priya Prabhu. So Rati Priya, Devi Dasi and her husband Prabhu have been serving ISKCON communities for several decades. Rati Priya first became involved with child protection in the 1990s when she was engaged at the Gurukul as a school teacher. It was around that time that broader society in general became more aware of the prevalence of child abuse, not only within Australia but also in other developed nations. So Rati Priya has since attended several child protection courses facilitated by government agencies, and more recently she has been involved in establishing the child protection policy for ISKCON Australia. She is also an accredited investigator in certain classes of child protection within the school setting. So recently she has become a member of New Govardhan's child protection team. So please welcome Her Grace Rati Priya.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It's the first time I've spoken with a microphone, so please excuse me. Okay, my experience in child protection is basically what Hladini has said. I also have a bit of a passion because one of my children was sexually abused within the Gurukul situation, and he has suffered tremendously in his youth, and is only now at almost 40 years of age, becoming content with his life as such. So personally, I've seen the effects of child abuse, and I honestly do not wish to see it on any other child in my lifetime. So saying that, one of the things that is, child protection agencies have mentioned is that all children have the right to feel safe and to be safe all the time. So Srila Prabhupada, through his mercy, has given us protection. So it's incumbent upon us as the adults of this society to protect the children. They're born in this society already having that advantage of taking Krishna consciousness with them throughout their lives. But if they're lacking that protection, if anything, for a lot of them, it's going to turn them away from Krishna consciousness. When I attended a seminar in Melbourne, I actually can't remember the name of this person. He was a priesthood counsellor from the Catholic Church, and he was also a member of staff assisting with the Royal Commission into Institutional Abuse. And he basically said, don't have your head in the sand. Child abuse in organisations is happening now. It's not just in the past. So he's not just referring to the Catholic Church, he was referring to religious organisations, educational organisations, sporting organisations, the Scouts, Girl Guides, whatever other sort of organisations. So from the, I don't know if you haven't heard, the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, it was actually formulated when Julia Gillard was in office as Prime Minister. So it was established in January 2013, and the final report had been handed down in December 2017. From this report came child safe standards, and there were 7 noted, and these child safe standards are meant to be implemented into every institution that has children within their care. So these 7 standards are: number 1, strategies to embed an organisational culture of child safety, including through effective leadership arrangements. 2, a child safe policy or commitment to child safety. 3, a code of conduct that establishes clear expectations for appropriate behaviour with children. 4, screening, supervision, training and other human resource practices that reduce the risk of child abuse by new and existing personnel. 5, processes for responding to and reporting suspected child abuse. 6, strategies to identify and reduce or remove risks of child abuse. And 7, strategies to promote the participation and empowerment of children. So all states within Australia are now meant to implement these standards. New South Wales has just finished the consultation process in April this year, and so now they are accumulating all the responses, and once that report has been released, all institutions within New South Wales will need to comply with these safety standards. So when I was in Melbourne, I was asked to help. Actually, I started the formulation of the ISKCON, the Australian ISKCON policy. So with Atulia and myself, we used the seven standards, and we also used the ISKCON Child Protection, the international child protection policies. If anybody wishes to read these, it's a 34-page document. If you go to the school website under policies and procedures, that there is the international one and the national policy. So I just wish to read a little bit from the national policy. All people, regardless of age, gender, race, culture, disability, and family or social background, have equal rights to protection. All people, including children, have the right to be respected and valued, as well as feel emotionally, physically, and spiritually safe at all times. Under ISKCON GBC law, the ISKCON International Child Protection Guidelines and Policy document takes overarching precedence over any other documents. However, local law and legislation are to be complied with wholly and totally. Which brings us back to the safe standards, child safe standards. Once it's implemented, there are actually fines that can be given to institutions if they don't come up to these standards. This document, therefore, has been developed to adhere to and supplement the ISKCON Child Protection Policy and Operational Guidelines, which is this one, while ensuring that all leadership, staff, volunteers and programs meet the child and young person safety standards in each Australian state and territory. Also, ISKCON is committed to implementing the ISKCON Child Protection Office guidelines to ensure that everyone involved with children honours their responsibilities to safeguard them from harm. This can be achieved only by a clear commitment from all ISKCON participants, especially those in management, leadership and educational roles, to follow these guidelines, which includes, where applicable, to promptly report any concerns about children's welfare to the relevant secular authorities. So with that, I'd just like to mention that us as adults in the community, we are actually mandatory reporters, all of us here, so that if we hear or know of any type of abuse towards children, we are required to notify the police or to notify the family and community services within New South Wales. Or, if you don't feel comfortable to do that, you can notify one of the members of the child protection team, which I understand is Karunika and myself. I've just been on it for about a week and a half. Or we can notify Vinod Biharikabu as the principal, or Ajita as the manager of the community itself. Yes, so it's actually obligatory for all adults to report any incidents. So I'm not going to go on any further because it needs to be short, and So that's basically what it is. Very soon we will be required as an organisation who has children in their care to come up to these child safe standards and to be aware that we are also mandatory reporters, and also to be aware that those children are given to us. And Srila Prabhupada said, as we saw in the other, the last slide Mahananda gave us, that the children of this society are our future. So let's look after them all together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rati Priya. Okay, so that concludes our presentations.